This episode's guest is the amazing tech savvy dynamo you never knew you needed in your digital life, Anne Goldberg. At 73, Anne has been on a mission since 2013 to help fellow seniors turn tech frustration into tech confidence. Whether you're terrified of your smartphone or still calling the remote control the clicker, waiting wildly here, Anne's got your back. A former executive recruiter turned digital educator, and is the brains behind the brilliantly titled Take This Phone and Shove It, a guide to using tech for better living, staying connected, and keeping our minds sharp. Anne brings heart, humor, and a whole lot of enthusiasm to the world of tech education for seniors. Her classes aren't just lessons, they're lifelines to connection, confidence, and cognitive sharpness. She believes we're old enough to have a past and young enough to have a future. And trust me, after hearing her, you'll believe it too. Buckle up, friends. Anne is about to plug you into some delicious inspiration. Oh my gosh. Welcome to Don't Be Caged by Your Age, Anne Goldberg. Get the
I'm
clappers
so happy
out.
to be here. Thank you, Andy.
Oh, I'm so delighted you're here, Anne. And I just love everything you're doing. And here on the Don't Be Caged by Your Age podcast, we are all about aging out loud and proud. Please share where you live and how many years the world has enjoyed the gift of your presence.
Well, on April 1st, I turned 73 and celebrated right here in Boca Raton, Florida, which is where I've been living in Florida since 1986. So it's a long time here in
That is
Florida.
a long time,
Yeah.
really long time. And happy birthday, you
Thank you.
fire Aries goddess, you. You had a successful career, Anne, as an executive recruiter. What was it like to leave that world behind and start something completely new?
Well, when I left recruiting, that was really to raise my sons. And they are now in their 30s, and I'm a grandma 3 times. Three adorable,
Congratulations.
wonderful children. You know, the world spun on my sons until I had grandchildren. And my sons can take a back seat. But I actually started this business on kind of a divinely inspired path. And how that happened was back in October of 2013. I was coming out of 4 years post 2009 of problems connecting with what I wanted to do after my kids didn't need me anymore. And
Right.
I wanted to return to the workforce. And I just was hitting walls all over the place. I came home one day in October. I said, that's it. I surrender. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know what people would pay me to do that I would love to do. So I'm not going to look for a job. I'll wait for the signs. Send me the signs. I'm watching. And over the course of the next 10 days, I got 6 calls from seniors I didn't know who said more or less the same thing. I'm not sure how I got your name, but I understand you teach computers to seniors. Can you help me? After the 6th call, by the way, it took 6 calls. After the 6th call, I looked up, I said, okay, message received. I'm supposed to teach tech to seniors. And the next day, I made a call to an independent living residence very near where I lived and got hired, boom, right away. And that was it. I was off and running, and doors flew open, and clients came, and I have been on that path since.
I love this story, Anne, so
Mhm.
much. And here's why. As we transition in life, and sometimes we become too much to be hired, right? And we're a little more discerning how we want to spend our time as well. You said to the universe, look, I'm sure there's a problem out there that people want to be solved by me, and they'll pay for it. I don't know
Mhm.
what that is. And I'm going to just look for those signs. And I think 6 calls is an appropriate enough, what I like to call 4th of July fireworks type of a sign. Like, yoo-hoo, Anne, here's where you're supposed to be. Okay, got it. You heard the message loud and clear, and you took action. You said,
Yes.
okay, let me dip my toe in. Let me prove my value proposition, which is that seniors want to learn this and they want to learn it from me and they'll pay me. And listeners, I want you to always ask yourself that question, because A lot of times we cannot break down the walls of corporate America with their ageist beliefs about your age. So you need to rewire yourself. You need to start thinking about, well, what else can I do and how can I do it? So, what was that first experience like? Because, like anything new, it can be a little scary.
Well, I took to it like a duck to water. I love teaching, and I love seniors. And when I defined seniors at that time, they were more my parents' age. So they had 15 or 20 years on me. So I was then in my late 60s. And in my late 60s, that's when I
Come on.
retooled my life.
Yeah.
I was 67, actually. And the very first class, I was so delighted to be there. And I knew no matter what they knew, I knew more than them. It didn't matter that I didn't know everything. I knew more than my target audience. And more importantly, I respect my target audience. Too often, when seniors are approached, it's from a place of you are less than somehow because you're old, or you're not that smart, or you can't learn. Well, that's just bunk. All of that is bunk because the brain is going to learn at any age as long as you get adequate sleep and nourishment and practice. So I just fell into it with love and joy. And every time, to this minute, every time I walk in front of an audience or I sit down with a client, I am in my happy place.
I love that. And you brought up something that's really important, which is respect for seniors. Honest to goodness, I heard a woman who's running a phenomenal company doing remarkable things in the world. And rather than speaking intergenerationally, meaning, well, we need different ways of viewing the world, we need to be looking through different lenses. She went right to, well, I love my Grammy, but she just doesn't know TikTok.
But
She doesn't know tech. She doesn't know all of this stuff as if Grammy were 3 years old. And that just lights me up, Anne, because I'm always saying we were building tech companies in the 1970s, folks. Okay. Technology is not that hard, but also there are a ton of older adults well over the age of 65 who are killing it on
mhm,
TikTok, on
mhm.
LinkedIn, on Instagram, and in every other facets of life. So I don't like the infantilizing of seniors. And you came in with respect for your first group there, and you continue to bring that respect because you already are under the assumption that they're wicked smart, as we say up here in Boston. They can figure this out. This is just a teachable moment. When you were talking to them, because sometimes there are seniors who feel intimidated by tech, but I don't think it's tech. I think doing anything new can be intimidating. How do you
Yeah.
help them overcome that fear?
Well, first of all, when it comes to tech, I explain to them, go on YouTube and look for teenagers trying to use a rotary phone. And you'll see them poking it and tapping it, and they don't know. You put your finger in the hole and dial. They have no idea.
I'm sorry. I
It's
can't stop
hilarious.
laughing, folks. That is just.
It's hilarious. And I explain to them, it's not that they're stupid, and it's not that you're stupid. You're just faced with something that you have no idea what it is. It's like being dropped on a Greek island that has no English and you don't speak Greek. So it's about learning the language of technology and with phones, specifically smartphones, which is about gestures. That's the language. And most seniors get hung up because a tap and a press are different. You get different results. And if they think they're tapping and they tap and press and something unexpected comes up, that flusters them. So I teach them how to work with the phone so they won't be surprised, to understand that if something happens like that, it was just how you touched the device. And I completely get that when faced with something, I mean, learning another language, learning French or more Chinese with a different alphabet completely.
Or
These
something
things,
as simple as salsa dancing, where you've got to move
yes,
your feet in a certain way. Just you're rewiring your brain to do that.
yes, that's it exactly. And that's a perfect example because Nobody knows how to salsa well after one lesson. It's just not going to happen. And it won't happen after 5 lessons if they never practice in between those lessons. They're not going to really get those new neuronal networks going in their brain that are new memories. So whether it's salsa dancing or learning a language or learning a smartphone, it requires practice, just like anything else that we learn. And that's the place where the seniors really kind of drop the ball, right? I'm a great teacher. I can teach. But for somebody to learn, they've got to take certain steps themselves too.
So when you go into a class, how do you start your lessons, and where do you like to take folks? What do you talk? How do you present the outcome that they're going to experience at the end of your lessons? Take us through that whole process.
Well, if it's a class I've never done before, I very often will start with a question. And the question is one that was asked of Satchel Paige, a baseball player from the 1940s or so, who entered the pro baseball world in his 40s. And a reporter asked him, "Hey, Satchel, how old are you?" And his answer was, "How old would you be if you didn't know how old you were?" And that's a great question. And so many of them will go, oh, 30, 50, whatever it is, because they tend to hook into a time when they were happy. For me, I am ageless. I don't have an age. I don't identify with one age. I certainly don't identify with being 73. That's like
As the way
weird.
we knew it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
we're
right.
indoctrinated for it. Yeah.
At 73, my mother didn't live to 73, and at 70 she was old.
Yes.
Her affect was old, and that is certainly not who I am, and it's not who most baby boomers are today. We see the world differently. So I will start with that question, and then depending on the group, because some groups are more lecture, although even my lectures are interactive, because if somebody has a question, I want to address it right in the moment if I can. But very often I'll just go in and say, okay, who has a problem? What happened on your phone this week that made you crazy, that you don't know how to do? And a couple of people will answer the question. And always, if one person has that issue, other people in the room have it too. So it's kind of freewheeling when I'm doing a workshop type of class. And I want to be able to give attention to each individual. So my workshops are never more than about 15, 18 people, because that's the number that I can address and work with people for a couple minutes individually so they understand what's happening. Also, very often in my classes, it's a mix of Android and iPhone users. So there are certain things that are common to all smartphones, like gestures and homepage and docs and things like that. And then they diverge because Android is kind of like an internal combustion engine, and Apple is kind of like an electric engine. You know, they're both drive cars forward. The internal workings are different, but you get behind the wheel, you have a steering wheel, you have gas, you have brake, you have a dashboard. They look the same to us. We don't really think about what's under the hood.
That's
So
right. They have the same functions, but how you use those functions are different on
that's right.
each
The
phone.
operating systems are
Mhm.
different. And that is exactly how I explain an operating system. It's auto engines. You know, it's what drives the device, but we don't really care what drives it. We only care how we use it. And that's the important thing. So classes are kind of freewheeling. I love it when people ask questions. And
And
a lot.
what's the outcome that you start with, though, saying, I want you to, by the time we're done, wow your kids and grandkids with your adeptness, or I just want you to feel confident and connected, because let's face it, our smartphones are how we stay connected today.
I want them to feel empowered. I want them to feel inspired. Those are really my goals. Yes, I want them to be able to use the smartphones and technology for everything that you just said and so much more. But it's more than that. It's don't be defined by your age. There is no reason except for your own resistance that somebody, certainly in their 60s, 70s, and even many, many, many folks who are in their 80s and even 90s have the cognitive ability to learn this. If they're willing, if they don't allow their fear of failure, their fear of feeling stupid get in the way. And again,
And
you're
the
not
stories they
stupid.
themselves, the stories that say, "Oh, I'm too old to be doing this," or "I've never been good at technology," or whatever that story is, they get locked into it fiercely. And
That's right.
got to melt those fears and become confident, really own the phone.
Own the phone. That's right.
Wow. And, as one of the things I wanted to bring up too is, are your classes always in person?
So far, they have been.
And that makes sense because you want to be able to go around the room and,
Yeah. I've done a few things online or even on Zoom. And then what happens is they're looking at their screen and they see something, but I don't see what they see. So I say, hold your phone up. And this is, they'll go like this, or like this, and I can't see what they see. And if I can't see what they see, I can't answer their question.
That's right. That's right.
So,
And I think in person is wonderful. When we were talking earlier, something came out and it was just so funny. And it was to the younger generations. And it was the comment, "Are you tired of being your parents' IT department?" What's your advice for adult children who get frustrated with being their parents' personal tech support?
buy my book. Your parents, my book.
And for those who are watching the video, I just popped it up here. This is the wonderful Anne Goldberg's book. It's called Take This Phone and Shove It, A Frustrated Senior's Guide to Smartphones. And it's written by a senior for a senior. And I'll have all the links in the show notes. We're talking with Anne Goldberg here today, author, teacher, muse. And again, the author of Take This Phone and Shove It, A Frustrated Senior's Guide to Smartphones. Visit takethisphoneandshove.com to learn more. And be sure to follow Anne on Instagram at Take This Phone and Shove It. So, what are the conversations you have about helping? Because, it has to be frustrating for the parent to be turning to their kids all the time as for tech support. Talk a little bit about this.
That's really dependent on the relationship between the parents and the children. And it's
Yes.
different as those relationships are different. So there are some people I come across whose children are a blessing to them and they help them. But what happens is they don't necessarily teach them. They do things for them and they show them how to do a few basic things, but they really do things for them. Again, I want to empower seniors. I want you all to be using your brain. If somebody shows you how to do something, you're not really learning it. But if you understand the logic behind it, then you can think your way through if you reach a problem. And that's what challenges the brain. That's what's so wonderful about technology and learning technology. And another piece of it is that parents and children, they've got their own stuff together, and kids get sparked by their parents and parents get sparked by their children. And that's why I have a job, because I hear all the time, my daughter has no patience with me. My son just gets annoyed when I call him because their kids are working. And then they get a frantic call in the middle of the day. I don't know what this text is.
Right.
So I don't get sparked by somebody else's parent.
Right.
And on the rare times, and I really have an enormous amount of patience, but on the rare times that somebody annoys the hell out of me, I have a strategy. I smile. I just sit and I smile for a second. And that shifts my attitude just with a smile. And then I'm able to say to the person, the fact that you can't understand this is not on you. I have to figure out how to communicate this to you so
Yes.
you can understand it. And then I use metaphors as an example. What is a modem? Andy, do you know what a modem is actually?
Back in the day, I probably knew what a modem was when we had dial up.
Mm,
Or are you
well,
talking about a router? So the router is where we get
the
our
modem. The modem.
connectivity. Modem. Go ahead.
Okay, so I invite us to all go back to the 50s, 60s when we had antennas on the roofs of our houses to capture TV signals. And we all understood what that was. They were wireless signals, just like radio signals, that came to the antenna, and then a wire was attached to the back of our TV. I used to screw the wire in, so I remember that very well. And we understood that the antenna received the signal. And if the antenna wasn't right, we had to go up on the roof and move it around to stop the rolling or the snow, right?
Right.
Well, modem is exactly the same thing. It's an antenna. It's actually several antennas because a modem has an antenna for your TV signal. It has an antenna for telephone signal. It has an antenna for your internet. They operate at different frequencies and they receive and send signals. That's what the modem does. So if the modem goes out, it's like your antenna fell over and you're not going to get a signal when the modem is not operating. And when I explain it in that way, what I see is, that kind of the light bulb goes on
Well,
and
because
they understand
you made it relatable to
exactly.
their lived experiences. And
And
I
that's how
think
I teach.
that is so phenomenal. You are an extraordinary teacher. And so, what are some of the rewarding transformations you've seen in seniors who've embraced the technology, who've made it past their resistance and into really using it as the wonderful tool it is?
They feel better about themselves. They feel happier, less frustrated. There aren't remarkable changes. It's more the absence of that irritation. That's why take this phone and shove it because I know there have been times in my life when when I have wanted to take this phone and throw it against a wall because I was so annoyed with what was going on. But given that they're expensive devices, I always held myself back. But I understand that frustration. And it is more the absence of those things that they experience and the joy of connecting with their loved ones who are far away. To me, that is far and away the most fantastic thing about this technology. My younger son moved to Denver 2 years ago. And when he moved, I was like, oh my God, he's so
What am I
far.
going to do?
Oh my God. Well, he moved into a new apartment about 6 weeks ago. And because we both have iPhones, we FaceTimed and he put the phone in a corner of his kitchen and I helped him unpack all of his kitchen and put it away while
Aw,
I was here in Florida and he was in Colorado. And
aw.
I was in the room with him. It was fantastic. I did not miss out in helping my son, even though I wasn't physically with him. So it is that kind of experience that I and so many others have, and especially seniors with family overseas,
Right.
and they can use Messenger or WhatsApp and talk for free and video chat for free.
It's,
That's a
I, speaking of the rotary phones and the younger generations, they don't understand this talk for free. I remember when my husband was in India for 6 weeks and we were sending fax messages because we couldn't afford the long distance phone call fees. They were so
Mhm.
exorbitant. And here we are today. But it's not only just doing the FaceTime and staying connected with our loved ones, it's also having more fully expressed moments. So there's this wonderful woman, Jean Panine. She's about 84, I think, and lives in a tiny home community in North Carolina. And she is always sharing what's going on politically, personally, women's rights, whatever. I love seeing that. And it's because she understood how to master the app called TikTok or video, period. and be able to create. So a lot of seniors I'm witnessing and are leveraging the technology for their own evolution and growth as they expand into this new future of pro aging and are able to do things that help them earn money and be visible and up their game, level up what they're doing in the world. So I love that. And if listeners and viewers, are you enjoying the conversation as much as I am? If so, please take a moment to support. Don't be caged by your age. You can show support by buying me a coffee. That's right. For just $5 a cup, you can sponsor the podcast and help amplify inspiring voices like Anne Goldberg, break age related stereotypes, and help me reach more listeners worldwide and keep that pro aging vibes going. Visit buymeacoffee.com/Ande Lyons. Every cup makes a difference, and let's make aging a journey of joy and possibilities together. And we've got to start talking about your wonderful guide, your wonderful book called Take This Phone and Shove It. I'm going to put it into the full screen here. A Frustrated Senior's Guide to Smartphones. What compelled you? What inspired you to take what you were teaching and put it into a book?
Well, it was about 2 years ago, and a little voice in my head reared up again and said, "Write the book." And it was like every day, write the book.
And had you ever
And
written a book before? Did you know what this would look and feel like?
nothing like this, nothing like this. And my response internally to that little voice was, I know there's a book, but I just don't know what my point of view is, how to start it, where the conversation would be. And sometime, probably 8 months later, my husband and I watched a promotional webinar by a book coach who is giving tips, wanting you to buy her course. And one of the things she said was, get a great title. If you don't have a great title, your book will languish. So that just sat in my brain and percolated through. And it was maybe a week or two later, I was talking with a dear friend, and we were just sort of talking about what I was doing. And I said, yeah, these seniors, they get so frustrated. They just want to take the phone and shove it. Oh my God, that's my book title. And once I had that, it was like the floodgates open. I sat and I started to type. It just came out of me to the point, and this was probably in February of 2024. And from that point forward, I actually gave up work because it would annoy me if I couldn't write. It would annoy me that jobs took me away from sitting at my computer and pouring this book out of me, because I had been teaching this for a decade at that point. And it's just a part of who I am. And so it took about a year to write the book, and then about 5 months in editing, back and forth with my editing team. And right now the book is in graphic design and will be out sometime in May of 2025. But it was definitely that same sort of divinely inspired guidance. I'm big on listening to these thoughts that come into my head that I did not think. And I wasn't thinking about writing a book because the idea of it intimidated me.
Of course. Oh my gosh. I love how you listen to, I'd say, divine inspiration. It's so important. And would you please be sure to tag me when the book is ready for folks to purchase? I want to make sure I get it out to everyone. And I'm happy to do a live stream with you. So, listeners and viewers, stay tuned, because I think Ann and I would have a really good time on LinkedIn and YouTube sharing this wonderful, wonderful book when it's ready, so folks can ask questions live in the comment section. We can get a dialogue going. So, let's talk a little bit about ageism and breaking stereotypes. Yeah, I harp on it all the time. And at the same time, it's so important that we come from different viewpoints of what that looks like. Did you ever struggle with your own ageist beliefs when you were starting this new chapter in your life?
Never occurred to me.
There you go. Why
Never.
do you think that is? Why?
I think it's because I've been so immature my whole life. I've never identified with growing old. And there's still a part of that that is part of who I am. I am somebody who is constantly awestruck by nature and by things that happen serendipitously.
Yeah.
I enjoy that childlike quality of, oh my goodness, look
Your
at that.
auntie, yeah, your auntie Mame, life is a banquet, right?
And most poor suckers are starving to death.
One of my favorite lines ever. So I love that we have that
Ever.
in common. Oh my gosh. And so what do you say when people ask you or tell you, I'm too old to learn new technology?
What I tell them is the science on neuroplasticity. And I explain, excuse me, the brain is not fixed. That old adage that if you burn brain cells, that's it, they're gone forever, is completely false. If that were true, somebody who had a stroke would never learn to walk or talk again. And people do because the brain accommodates. And why does the brain accommodate? Because when you've had a stroke, you go into physical therapy very quickly and you are trained to walk again every day. Every day, multiple times a day, they have you up and getting those new neural connections forming in the brain that tells it how to put one foot in front of the other, or how to put words together, or how to read again. All of those things are possible because the brain grows and shrinks with how much exercise it gets. And exercise for the brain is learning. So whether you are learning a song, an instrument, a smartphone, a new language, a card game, a dance, you are stimulating your brain. And it doesn't matter if you're 12 or 85 or 95. As long as you are well nourished, because the brain needs that, well hydrated, because the brain needs that, and you get a decent sleep. Sleep is incredibly important and for memory formation, and then practice, practice, practice. There is no such thing as being too old to learn for anybody who is cognitively normal. And I want to address cognitive normalcy. My dad, in his 50s, God rest his soul, had the best explanation of the difference between normal cognitive decline and dementia. He came out of the bathroom one day and he didn't zip his fly. And my mother started making fun of him. He was getting old, he was losing his mind. And he looked at her and he said, honey, it's not a problem if I forget to zip down. It's only a problem if I forget. I'm sorry. Oh, I blew it. It's not a problem if I forget to zip up. It's only a problem if I forget to zip down. And that is the difference between cognitive, we're older, things take longer, words that elude us, or dementia, where you are disconnected from daily activities. You
Right.
don't remember them anymore.
Oh my
So,
gosh. And when you and I were chatting before we did our recording, you talked about the filing cabinet
mhm,
for our brain.
yes,
And,
yes,
and what happens, and one of the biggest myths out there is that when we can't recall something, our brain is going. And the truth is that we've gone from just a one drawer filing cabinet, which is your 20s and 30s, to a whole series of mainframes up against the wall. I mean, we have brought in so much information into our brain, it's hard to retrieve it. And sometimes our browsers need refreshing. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I like to say a few things, but first, the carousel of the mind. I know it's there. The carousel is working, and it will come back around to my conscious thought. Just give it time, and and that's what happens. And every now and then, something I just can't remember, so I look it up.
Yeah.
But I never take that as a sign that there's something wrong, because I can sit down with somebody else's phone, not a phone I'm familiar with, a different brand, an Android that I don't use every day, and I can figure it out. So I know my brain is working just fine, even if I can't remember the name of the movie I saw yesterday.
Right. Exactly. Or some famous actor that used to come rolling off my tongue. I was like, oh, that
Uh-huh.
that And
Yeah, it's whatchamacallit. It's
yeah,
the, what's his name? The whatchamacallit.
and
And,
it doesn't matter if you're 13 or 93. Some of our brains are wired to really quickly grasp languages, technology, cooking, you name it, right? Cutting hair. Oh my gosh, I could
right.
never do that. Art. What I do with technology and always have from my first VCR is to say, all right, what do you want me to know so I can make you work properly? And so instead of coming up with a barrier, I go, okay, I need to learn what it is on how you operate so that I do the right thing. So there's never any intimidation. It's just that I'm missing what I need to know. And because so much technology is based on a lot of the same premises, I can say, well, I know I do this for this one tech piece or equipment in the home. I wonder how they're using that in this particular situation with this particular device. And so I stay in curiosity.
Yes.
And I
Mhm.
think
Yes, it is.
that's important as we age is to continue to stay curious and engaged instead of shutting down and thinking we're done. You have this great saying, and I said it when I opened up the show. You're old enough to have a past and young enough to have a future. I love that something fierce. What are your hopes and dreams for the future, Anne Goldberg?
My hope and dream is to start a movement, the young enough to have a future movement, just like you have, Andy,
Yeah.
to inspire and empower seniors to know that we're not done, and having a future that could be taking care of your grandchildren for your kids. I know a woman who moved to where her children live, and she is the nanny for her grandchildren. She was a preschool teacher. She's in hog heaven doing this. Whatever it is, we're not done, and we don't have to be done.
Right.
And the idea of curiosity, that I talk about that in the book. And one of the most fascinating things that I observe with almost every student that I have, average age 85, is that the English language becomes foreign when they see English on a phone screen. So they are entering a contact, and now they've entered all the information and they don't know what to do. And on the screen, depending on the phone, it'll either say save or done. And they read those words and they go right past them when they read the screen, not connecting that done means done. I'm finished. I'm complete. I'm done. And when I explain it to them, it's that deer in the headlight again face. Oh, so it is the idea that the answer is there. And it happens to me. There are times when I'm looking at the screen going, I can't figure this out. So what do? I put it down for a minute. I get up, maybe I walk outside, look at the sky, get a drink of water, do some stretching, come back and say to myself, the answer is here. You just need to find it. So look carefully. Don't just scan it, but actually read the screen. And if there are 3 dots or 3 lines, tap on it. The screens are tiny. They can't put all the instructions on the screen. There would be no room for anything. So there are so many things that are hidden behind dots and dashes. And when you become comfortable with tapping on that, then all of a sudden, that's where you see how you delete something, or how you send something, or how you save something, or various other instructions. So that curiosity is critical to learning how and maintaining an interest in learning the phone is very much dependent on curiosity.
Right. And it's a shift in your mindset, especially the we can learn new things mindset
Yes,
versus you can't teach an old dog new tricks. We got to dissolve that. That's a
bunk.
terrible meme.
It's bunk.
It's bunk. And this has been such a delicious conversation. Any last thoughts for folks before I wrap up?
Don't let age define you. Don't let other people influence how you see yourself. You are who you have been your whole life. And even if you're in your 80s or 90s, you are still that person with gifts and contributions to make, whether to the immediate family, your small community, the larger community, or the world. We all have gifts to share. And don't be afraid to do it, because you're old enough to have a past and you're young enough to have a future.
Woohoo! Oh my gosh. Folks, if you enjoyed this conversation, let us know on Instagram, LinkedIn, on the website. You can even leave a voice message for me on the website. Okay. It's so much fun. Let us know what you're thinking, and be sure to follow Anne everywhere she glows. Take this phone and shove it. You can find her on Instagram. You can go to the website, takethisphone-and-shove-it.com, and connect with Anne. And I know this recording is on, this will probably go live in late April. So I'm thinking by the time folks start tuning in, you'll be able to be pre-ordering maybe Anne's book, which would be lots of fun. But stay tuned with the Don't Be Caged by Your Age podcast, and follow me everywhere I glow, because I will be sharing Take This Phone and Shove It when it goes live. And I'm sure you have an email list on your website, Anne, so people can get alerted when the guide is ready.
That's the best way to know when the book is available, is go to my website, let me know your email address and your mobile number, and we will reach out to you as soon as the book is available. It'll be an easy, quick link on an email you receive from takethisphone-and-shove-it.com, that, or Savvy Senior Tech, which is the parent company. And you will be able to click on that link safely and buy the book.
Ah, so excited. I am so grateful for your time and your presence today, Anne. I especially loved the analogies, primarily the rotary phone YouTube. I'm going to go watch that and say, yeah, let's see how well you do with that, you younger generations, you. That's terrific. Oh my gosh, folks, please remember, you have so much more to give. Don't let those internalized ageist beliefs prevent you from pursuing new dreams and opportunities. Get out there, try some new things, especially some tech apps, and really nail down that phone and wow some younger folks in your life, while and become this savvy senior tech person you've always wanted to be. Until then, I'm wishing you a delicious day everywhere you glow. Cheers from Boston. Bye. And thank you, Anne.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, Ande.
Listeners, I'm so grateful you carved out time to tune in and grab the gems from this delicious conversation. Be sure to hop on over to Don't Be Caged by Your Age on LinkedIn or Instagram to share your thoughts about ageism and unretirement. Because in this space, your age doesn't define you, it refines you. If you are inspired by a story you hear, it would mean the world to me if you would subscribe, share, rate, and review the podcast. To receive an alert whenever a new show is posted, please join the Don't Be Caged by Your Age newsletter. Every month, you'll receive links to the podcast and helpful resources for creating possibilities for your unretirement days. Thank you for tuning in. I am so excited to hear how you found ways to thrive after 65. Waving from Boston, cheers.